All right, here we are. Just fired it up, and let's see. I think I'll turn the music down so that whatchamacallit, YouTube doesn't go, ooh, copyright infringement, and demonetize my video. We'll keep that low enough in the background. So what do we have? I'm going to do our first kind of overview of what it is and take it for a drive and talk about why I bought this thing. So right now, so what it is it's a 2022 Mustang GT Fastback with the Ford Performance Package. So what that was better tires, wheels, wing on the back, cross brace on the strut, and a full Brembo brake package. So so far very cool. I'm definitely digging this thing. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's 450 horsepower. You got ride mode. You can change the steering wheel to different things. You can change the loudness of the exhaust all through switches here by closing valves and things like that. So you can change the stiffness of the steering wheel. Good climate control. Very nice high screen, a high res screen. Better than what I had in the Chevy. This also feels like it's more glass. The other one was like this soft film, which had a tendency to make it look blurry. It didn't look as clear. This looks a little bit more like an iPhone screen. So let's take it for a drive and let's talk about what it is and what I like, and maybe what some of my plans for this vehicle are gonna be. And I've got this thing set up on Super View, so it's gonna be, let's see, I gotta get this mounted in such a way that it won't go flying. I guess we'll find out. So it's kind of on a wide angle Super View, which is why it might look a little fisheye, but that way you can get the dashboard and stuff in shot. Let's see, maybe we can move that, angle that a little up. All right, let's see how that works. All right, let's put it in Sport Plus mode. Steering wheel, I guess we'll just leave it in Sport, it's fine. So, this is the Gen 3 Coyote motor in here. This is a 2022 5-liter. Putting out 450 horsepower. Red line is like 7,400 RPM, which doesn't seem like a lot when you're coming from bikes, you know, that rev up to 16,000. Even my R1 revs to 14.4. But in a car, it's kind of weird because I had V8s in my last several trucks, but as I'm rolling along, you know, they shift at like 5,500 or something like that. The 5.3 does. So here you're kind of expecting it to shift, and it just doesn't. It just keeps pulling and pulling, and when you're on the gas, it doesn't stop until you're up well over 7,000 RPMs. Sounds very good. Suspension's tight, but it's not uncomfortable. I've gone over some potholes, and I'm like, this is not bad. It's actually a fairly comfortable. Makes a good noise. It does have cloth seats right now. I did pay an upgrade when I bought it, so I just went by the dealership and we just ordered. It's going to be a charcoal gray perforated leather, and on the underside is going to be red, so you're going to see red kind of poking out through the perforations, and then you're going to have red stitching. So that'll be kind of cool. I think that'll look nice and kind of make it look just a little more posh. With the performance package and the leather upgrade and all that stuff, extended warranty, everything, I think it came to like 56 plus, or maybe that was even with tax. I think it was with tax. Out the door came to about 56. So you can get you know, like I said, it's a good deal because you are paying full MSRP these days, but you can get surprising amount of car for your money. When you think about it, years ago, go back 20 years. I mean, think about when I was growing up and started driving back in like 89, 90, somewhere in there. You know, you had, what did you have? Like Corvettes were making like 180, 190 horsepower. Like, you know, a Ferrari might make 200 and something, 200 and change. And in the 90s, you know, you started getting the 300Z, the 300ZX. There was what, the 2+2 coupe that I think shared a similar motor to, was it the Dodge Stealth or something like that, RT? But you had a twin turbo, I think a 3-liter V6. It was putting out 300 horsepower, and that was, again, that was like, wow, you're getting into like, you know, supercar territory. Now you can walk in, and if you didn't want the performance pack, you just wanted the plain 5.0 GT, you could get in and get that and be out the door with taxes in the low 40s. That's a hell of a good deal. So I got this. This does have the Torsen differential and stuff like that. It's got some nice little upgrades in it. One thing that I did not get because I didn't want, well, two things. One was the Recaro seats. And everyone's like, oh, you gotta get the Recaro seats. They're fine if they fit you. I'm 6'4" and 240 pounds. I don't fit, and it's not even like, oh, I'm fat or my gut or something. Like my rib cage, it physically pinches you from the sides, which if you're doing track days and you're out there for 20 minutes at a time, I'm sure it's fine. But as a daily driver or something, I might, you know, drive down the beach in Florida or something like that, no. I sat in it, and I came this close to buying a Mach 1. They had a gloss black Mach 1 with red accents and carbon fiber stripe and stuff like that. Bang & Olufsen stereo, Magna Ride suspension. I mean, it had everything, and 470 horsepower. And I was just like, you know what? Can't do it. Can't do it. I sat in it, hated it. And I wasn't going to spend 70 grand out the door to not be comfortable. It didn't even come down to the money. The guy's like, well, we can't come down on the price. I'm like, it's not about the price. I could buy the car, but I'm like, I'm not going to spend. And they had this car with the Recaros. I'm like, I wouldn't even spend, you know, what I spent on this and get the Recaros. It's just not comfortable. So I've got these. We'll upgrade them to leather. Everything else, though, has got a really nice finish. I like the dials, like the gauges, like the accelerometer, line lock, the electronics in this. You can adjust the sound of the exhaust. I guess there's a valve under there somewhere that you can close off and make it quiet when you want to just cruise along and not piss off the neighbors. But then if you want to put it in track mode and have it rip and sound like it's a straight pipe, you can do that. So didn't want the Recaros, which knocked out the Mach 1. And my wife and I, we went and looked at it. She's like, babe, you should have bought the Mach 1. I'm like, but then she sat in the Recaros and she's like, okay, I get it. Just not comfortable. Too expensive to not be comfortable in the car. And I'm not going to buy it and then downgrade, you know, the seats. So anyway, what else? So what was that? Oh, the other thing I didn't get, and everybody asked the question, you got the manual, right? Car guys get manuals. I'm not a car guy. I'm a bike guy. I was a truck guy to an extent, but here's the thing. I learned how to drive in 1985 on a stick shift. I drove stick shifts. I had manual cars. I've owned several of them and spent many years in commuter traffic and driving around in a stick shift. I hate a stick shift. And I know it's not cool to say that because like, oh, if you're a car guy, you got to be into a stick shift. No, you don't. I'm into cool gadgets, technology, performance, and safety. Because performance, that it's like when I talk about the leader bikes, when I talk about the R1, all that power, now that that thing's unlocked, the ECU and all that stuff, it's pushing over 210, probably somewhere around 212, 213, 214 horsepower at the crank. If you want to get and ride that thing fast, you either be, your last name either should be Rossi or Marquez, or you need electronics to keep you out of a ditch. Modern bikes and the power that they generate is only harnessable by mere mortals like myself and probably anybody that's watching my channel by using the electronics. So I like gadgets and electronics. I don't see them as nanny aids. I see it as you can stomp on the gas in the turn and your back end's not going to slide out and you're not going to go into a ditch and throw $40,000, $50,000 down the drain. That's just how I see it. And part of that is, you know, having a modern transmission. This 10-speed auto, you just hit the brakes. I mean, you just touch the brakes and it just wants to boom and go. Unless you are the Stig or a true pro race driver, you can't shift your car faster than this 10-speed automatic. And this isn't even like a DSG gearbox, but it's a nice transmission. The way it shifts, it downshifts, it bangs and pops, it does stuff. I can shift if I want, put it in manual mode and use the flappy paddles and bang, bang through the gears. It's aggressive. It works really, really well. And everyone says, oh, it's more engaging, you gotta have a stick. I use this joke and analogy all the time, but it's because it holds true. It's manual transmissions are the rotary phone of the transmission world, you know? And I think there's a thing with ego with car guys that they think that driving a stick is like some lost black art and only a few select people really, you know, only the real car guys have the skills to do it. Here's the thing, my grandmother does it, my mom does it. Most people drove stick shifts for 80 years. Men, women, teenagers, you name it. There's nothing special about it. In today's world, it's less common, but so is churning your own butter. So are flip phones. Technology's moved on, and at one time, I mean, if you're talking about a 1985, like a Dodge Aries K car or a Chrysler LeBaron, yeah, sluggish, dim-witted, awful automatic transmissions are one thing. That is not what we have in our hands today. This thing is awesome, and going to a manual would make it slower. Oh, I love how that revs. Oh, damn, this thing is fun. So, no, I didn't go with the stick shift. No point. No benefit to me. If you're a fan of stick shift, it's not that I can't do it. I did it for many years. I choose not to because there is something better. Technology has gotten better. There's no, you know, other than maybe a short throw or maybe making it a slicker gearbox or action or something, a stick shift is the same as today as it was in 1948. If you want the nostalgia, great. I look at it as a pain in the ass, and the fact that it's slower, and the fact that in parking decks or in stop and go traffic in Atlanta for an hour and a half, it freaking sucks. No, don't want it. If I want to play, I'll put it in the floppy paddle mode and spend less time dicking around with the gearbox, more time looking at my brake markers and hitting the apex and things like that. So this thing, you know, I'm not going to throw it through the turns. I don't know what the level of grip. These are run flats. These are the Pirelli P0s. But it does feel great. I mean, this is a really nice handling car so far. I know how fast I would go through here in a car or on a bike. And I would be going faster on a bike. I'll tell you, it's one thing you got to worry about, like, oh, what if I, ooh, I like the way that downshifts. Traction control kicking up. It's nice being able to go through a turn flat like that and not have to worry about low siding, but you know, you could get understeer and go straight into a ditch. So that's where I've had the car for 24 hours. I'm going to try not to be a complete knucklehead, and you know, but I want to have a little bit of fun. But this thing is definitely a neat car. I'm 6'4", I mentioned my size. I'm very comfortable. I've been driving around this thing all day, put a couple 100 miles on it. I'm comfortable. Got the seat adjusted where I want. I got tons of leg room. Now I did try to sit in the back. I could put the seat up enough to where I actually have leg room. I wouldn't want to be back there on a cross-country trip. My problem was I'm too tall. I had to really kind of lean over. My head was, I felt like I needed to put my head through the roof like Dino on the Flintstones. But, yeah, so what else about this thing? What I'll probably do is, I'm going to take it over to Vengeance Racing in Cumming. Of course, I'm not going to be able to not mess with it. I'm going to do some things, some mods. Probably going to limit it, though, to an X-Pipe. And, let's see, what else? X-Pipe. Probably a cold air intake. Maybe a tune. But it's not going to be a crazy tune. I don't want to, you know, risk blowing anything up. So I'll go over to the guys at Vengeance, see what they can maybe put together a little package. If I could get it up to 500 horsepower, which I think this motor can do pretty easily with a tune and a couple mods, I think that's all it really needs. After that, maybe better tires. Get rid of the run flats, use these up, and then get something better. Get conventional tires that are more summer tires and grip. I live in Georgia. I'm not going to be out driving in the snow, and in the wintertime I'm not as concerned because I'm not going to be out playing in the twisties and stuff like that. So getting 3-season tires or something that are much more performance oriented. I will at some point probably do a track day. I'll probably take this up to Road Atlanta, and I'll need the right tires for that. The brakes are great. The Brembos feel nice and strong. And I love that sound. Now, one of the mods I was going to do, because it's a V8 and it's a GDI motor, And the first thing that everyone says, oh, you got to do with a GDI motor is get a catch can. Got to get an oil separator catch can. Save your valves from getting... Turns out this motor doesn't need it. And I've been reading a lot of stuff on it lately, and I'm not 100% sold on catch cans. I use them. I ordered one. I figure, well, it's coming. I'll just throw it in Donna's truck. The reason I'm not going to put it in this is because apparently Ford has addressed the concerns of GDI motors. Oh, ooh, road buzzards. And so what they've done is they've got some oil separators built into the lines themselves. I'm not going to go through the whole thing of what it is with GDI, but basically, well, I'll go into a little bit of it while I'm driving. GDI, gas direct injection, get better power, can run a little bit higher compression, I think, but it gives you better control over the fueling, so you get better economy, better power response, things like that, by injecting gas directly into the cylinder right before spark. Okay, sounds good. Lets them play with the timing and do a bunch of other things and make it clever, and it makes the motors more efficient and all that. The problem is you no longer have the injector spraying atomized gasoline, which you always see, oh, gasoline with detergents, cleaning, this and that. Well, it does that on the valves because the valves are here, the intake track is up here, it squirts, and all that mist flows over the valves and basically washes the back of the valves with gasoline, which is a solvent. And it's also got additional things like, you know, detergents and stuff like that. So having that in there, you know, helps keep your valves clean. Well, when you have gas direct injection, you're bypassing the valve area and the intake track. You're going right to the cylinder. What Ford has done, which is what Toyota has also been doing to alleviate concerns about excessive oil baking onto the back of the valves and carburizing and things like that, is, we're going to stomp on it here. It's not motorcycle fast, but it's quick. So what it does is they use GDI so they get most of the benefits, but it's called dual injection. They also have a second set of smaller injectors in the port injecting atomized fuel. So you are getting some gasoline in the intake track, which gets sucked in to the cylinder over the intake valves and helps keep them clean. So you get most of the benefits of GDI without having to be worried about excessive carburizing. I submit, based on what I've been reading and a lot of things that make sense and some videos and stuff, is that everybody that, you know, gotta get a catch can. Well, do you? I know there are some horror stories about old VWs and Audis when they first came out with it, but in America, more than 50% of all fleet vehicles, trucks, vans, cars, things like that, are using GDI and have been for years, almost a decade. If there were major problems with GDI and valves, carburizing and choking up with carbon and stuff, you'd know about it. You'd hear about it. You'd have engine failures and all that stuff. It'd be like arteriosclerosis or cholesterol building up, you know, in your whatchamacallits, in your arteries. You're gonna have a problem at some point. If that was the norm, if that was really such a danger, with tens of millions of these on the road, you'd know. So I'm going to do something here. We're going to do an acceleration timer. We're going to do 0 to 60. Build up some torque. I did it wrong. My traction control kicked in. All right, so even with the wheel spin and the botched launch, I got 0 to 60 in 4.9. So I think if I did the line lock and heated up the tires and properly built up the torque and didn't have the wheel spin like I just had, I think we could have gotten down much lower, closer to the 4.5 that they advertise these things at, or even lower. I mean, maybe they're more, I think, on a prep surface and someone that knows what they're doing, I think you could probably get down closer to 4. I don't know, I'm guessing. I think they say that the 0 to 60 time is like 4.4. That may be something that needs optimal conditions in a prepped surface. I don't know. But 4.9, and I botched it. I stomped on the gas and started hitting the brake, and the back tire started lighting up while I was at the stop sign, or at the stoplight. And then when it turned green, I kind of let off and then got back on, and it still went 4.9. So it's still pretty quick. All right, let's go back. Let's see, track apps, accelerometer, 0.72 G's I pulled. So a lot of cool electronics. So talked a little bit about the car and kind of things I like and maybe some things I'm going to do. Oh, by the way, back to the catch can. So that's why I didn't go to the catch can. I don't think it's necessary, especially on this vehicle that uses dual fueling like that, has injectors upstream to help wash the valves. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'll throw that on my wife's truck, which does have. And I know you say, well, I've seen the cat, and I have catch cans on other trucks, and you pull it off after 3 months, and there's like this much water and oil, and you're like, oh my God, look at all that. It's like, yeah, but the motor is designed to consume that. The engineers have accounted for that. And that's also over the course of several months. The water, when it's hot, is just going to aerosolize. It's going to vaporize anyway. And a little bit of oil, every time you go out for a drive, oh, okay, there's a couple drops of oil on any particular drive. It's just, I don't know that it's going to do much. And on this car that uses the dual, like the Toyota, I don't think it's going to be an issue there either. So why did I get this? I've been a truck guy. I'm not a car guy. Here's why. I had some junker cars like everybody when I first started out driving, okay? I had a old 79 Mercury Grand Marquis I got from my grandparents that threw a rod. I had a Chrysler Fifth Avenue as my first real daily driver that my dad got for me from one of his employees. And that was a decent little car, but again, it was old. I got it, it had 130,000 miles. I had an old Plymouth Horizon hatchback, which is like the Dodge Omni. I had a Dodge Shadow Sundance Edition, which was the entry-level stick shift, no air conditioning, roll down the windows. I think it was $89.95, brand new in 1990. And so I've never had a cool car. And then I've been lucky enough to have company cars through most of my early career, but they were, you know, technician vans and some Dodge Stratuses, a couple Impalas, Malibus, a Chevy Lumina APV minivan. Try being 23, single, and having a Chevy Lumina minivan with your company's logo down the side. Not a lot of wool pull. Didn't really impress the girls. And then, you know, when I started buying my own cars, I had motorcycles or ATVs, and so I always tended to have vehicles that made sense. I need an SUV. I need all-wheel drive because of where I lived in the north and there was snow. I need to be able to tow or put something in the back. So I always bought a vehicle based on what my actual needs were, and it had to check certain boxes. And so to me, it was never what I really wanted. It's just like, okay, the truck's kind of cool. I can go off-roading, but I have it because I need this, 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 and this. And to check those boxes, that was the coolest thing I could find. But I never got in the truck. As much as I loved my truck, the Trail Boss was awesome. But I never got in the Trail Boss to go for a drive, unless I was off-roading. And the reality is I do that 3 or 4 times a year. Because you want to smash up a truck. You get stuck in the mud and have to call somebody to winch you out. So, you know, there's the novelty of what you think you're going to do with something, and then there's the reality of what you actually do with it. And I drive to Home Depot and I tow trailers and all that stuff. Well, my wife's got an identical truck. It's not a Trail Boss, but it's an RSTZ 71, and it's a 2022 and has off-road tires. And, you know, I'm like, okay, we got 2 identical vehicles. The main difference is one's blue, one's red. So I started thinking, okay, I don't need a truck. I'm going to be 50 years old. I know it's going to sound like, oh, midlife crisis. No, I've never had a cool vehicle. I always bought for a need, and what I wanted was secondary. And I'm like, you know what the hell am I waiting for? I can afford it. I could afford the Mach 1. I could afford a Vetta if I wanted, or shit, I could have got a Beamer or a Porsche or whatever, if I really wanted to spend that money. But I'm like, okay, what if I set a budget that it doesn't cost me any more out of my budget than the Trail Boss? What if it keeps my expenses the same? Could I go get a cool, fun sports car that doesn't have to be practical? Just something fun. You know, I thought about getting a 4Runner TRD Pro, downsizing from the big pickup truck, but something a little more, you know, if I got people in the car, but I need to throw stuff in because we're going to the store, you know, I'd have the back of the thing and wouldn't have to worry about getting rained on like it would in the bed of the truck. But then I'm like, am I really going to go off-roading? Yeah, let's just say I did it more. I did it 50% more, and I went 6 times a year. I'd get to enjoy whatever compromises I would make with that vehicle, to enjoy it 1%, 2% of the time. Or I get something like this that I enjoy every time I go out. When I go to the store, I'm like, hey, there's a straightaway. Hey, let's take the roundabout way and go hit that twisty road. You know, there's something to that when you get in there, it puts a smile on your face. I have always looked to motorcycles for that, because before, in order to get the kind of performance you'd want out of a car, you'd have to spend a ton of money. Or you go spend 10 grand to buy a bike, you know? So I've always gravitated towards bikes as my toys, and my vehicle, my four-wheel vehicle, was always to fill a purpose. And it was never to fill a passion. It was never to fill a desire. So I said, F it. I'm gonna go buy something cool. And I wanted a four-door sedan. I looked at the Charger, looked at the 392 Scat Pack, and it's got a great motor, and it looks great. It's four-seater, so it's a little more practical. Has big back seats, front seats, a little more room. But it's heavy. Dodge's quality isn't quite up to par. The inside is kind of Spartan. You know, for all that Hemi-and performance, it doesn't have the handling. On a track, this should run circles on it, around it. Acceleration, I don't know, it's got 5 horsepower on me and some torque. But this is lighter. So, you know, I looked at, what else? I looked at a Kia Stinger GT2, but I'm like, it's a Kia. Now, it's a very cool Kia. It's a twin turbo, 368 horsepower. Really nice, 4-door, Brembo's semi-active Magna-Ride suspension. Like, for 55 grand, that Kia is a pretty nice car, and Kia makes a quality vehicle these days. But I was like, do I really want to get the Kia, or do I want to go Ford? I looked at the Camaro, but the Camaro, the visibility was poor. It's a bit heavier and porkier. Doesn't really make more horsepower. Again, makes more torque because it's a 6.2 liter versus a 5, but it doesn't make more horsepower. This revs up higher and makes more top end power. You know, it catches up on the top end. But yeah, I'm just like, you know what? The Mustang's kind of cool. And with all the accessories and all the upgrades and the performance pack and stuff, and with the amount of aftermarket support for these things, you could do a lot of cool stuff to them. Some of it not even that expensive. And it sounds great. And you just hit that gas and it just freaking leaps into action. There's no waiting, downshift, downshift, downshift. You just stomp it and it goes from like 7th to 3rd. Boom, it hits. Hits like a hammer. It's great. I'm really glad I got it. It's cool to have something interesting and fun. And there's days that I want to go fast and kind of goof around, but maybe the weather's kind of iffy. All right, I'm going to take the car. I want to go up to the mountains. I want to go to the tail of the dragon in the car instead of 350 miles on a bike. And what if I get caught out in the rain, or I'm halfway through and my back is killing me and I still got 200 miles to ride home, you know? I'm going to do that stuff on my bike. This isn't replacing my bike, but it's cool to just have another option. And then when we have to tow a camper, we have to tow a trailer to a track day, we have to go to Home Depot or get literally a ton of rocks or something for landscaping in the backyard, we got the Silverado. My wife's got one just like that truck I'm passing there, only in blue. So I feel like it's cool to have a sports car and have the truck. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts, kind of my plans. Maybe do a X-Pipe. I don't really need it louder. I'm just thinking about changing the exhaust tone a little bit and freeing up a little bit of flow. And then doing the cold air intake and maybe a mild tune. But I think it'll wake it up even more. And then maybe focus the rest of the mods around the handling and stuff like that, you know? Oh, it's fun. But, yeah, so while we're sitting here, let's see. Let's go back here, go to settings, go to exhaust mode. Quiet. Now it sounds like I'm driving in a Camry. But if I hit the gas, you hear a little bit of rumble. How cool is that? Put it in track mode, it's even louder. And on track mode, I notice there'll be some popping and crackling on the downshifting and stuff. Yeah, it's going blah, 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 blah. This thing puts a freaking smile on my face. Yeah, track mode's only a little louder. It just makes it a little more raspy and a little more popping and banging. I normally just drive around in Sport Plus mode. Hopefully these cars are not turning left. Alright, so we're going to turn left and I'm just going to stomp on it in track mode. Damn it! Alright, I guess I'm not. Oh well, that always happens. Oh, it makes me giggle every time. It has such a cool sound to it, so. Anyway, that's the new toy. We'll start doing some mods, start doing some reviews, start doing some mountain rides, some other stuff, and see what we can make of this thing. Definitely gonna rev it as I go past my friend's house. Although he's got a Shelby GT500. That's a fast car. It's like 662 horsepower. Thing's an absolute animal. So this ain't that fast, but it is fast and fun. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy. Expect a lot of more Mustang content to come. Take care.